أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. When the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam found himself in the calendar year that you and I find ourselves in right now, he would make a dua that many of us have likely heard over many years of our life and definitively have probably heard over the course of the last few weeks. Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab, that, oh Allah, make blessed for us the month of Rajab, the month that we just witnessed. Wa Sha'ban, and the month of Sha'ban, the month that we find ourselves in. Wa balighna Ramadan, and enable us to reach the month of Ramadan. May Allah make us from amongst those who are blessed to reach it and take benefit from it. The recognition that we are drawing closer to that month necessitates us making a choice as to whether or not we will utilize these days strategically in anticipation of those days. Where our Prophet ﷺ engaged in a self-talk that reminded him that the month of Ramadan was coming, understanding that it was now a time to get focused and engaged on what lies ahead. And the disruption for us that is potentially there that comes from adversarial elements that want us to meet the month in a stage that is steps behind where we can actually engage it. Where the Prophet ﷺ, when he describes this month, فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ, that the gates of paradise are open. May Allah open them for us. وَغُلِقَتْ أَبْوَابُ النَّارِ, and the gates of the fire are closed. May Allah protect us from them. وَسُفِدَتِ الشَّيَاطِينَ, and the shayateen, they are chained, gives us an indication that if we are not planning strategically, those elements that want us to fail both in this worldly existence and the world that comes after, they're still making a plan. Within our tradition, there are distinct understandings of what does it mean that shaitan is chained in Ramadan. But you know, if you have ever been blessed to experience the month of Ramadan, that you are categorically a different individual in that month than you are out of it. And the uniqueness of what that 1 month offers to us means that there are 11 months otherwise that shaitan is seeking to bring us down. Adversarial elements that seek to hold us back. Opponents that don't want us to remember that we are not just Muslims in name, but Muslims in reality. Are four categorically: the dunya, the materialistic world that seeks to identify us in ways that has us just stuck within it. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O people of Iman, ma lakum, what is wrong with you? Idha qila lakum unfiru fi sabilillah, that when you are told to strive in the path of Allah, athaqaltum ila al-ard, you're just stuck in the dunya. We are not people who are meant to be anti-wealth, but we're not supposed to have a love of wealth, especially an unhealthy love of it. May Allah protect us from it. Beyond the dunya, the recognition of hawa, or base desires, cognates exist in all different kinds of languages. Defined also as the wind, because your desire can be so strong that it is strong like a wind that can knock down a building, as well as gentle like a breeze, but it still pushes you and bends you around. When the Quran tells us, do you see the one who worships their desire, who takes their desire as their lords? A third being the nafs, the lower self, the ego, in the way that Allah has constructed us in the most literal physical sense. The higher self is the place of the heart and the mind. The lower self is the place of the stomach and the sexual organs. May Allah make us those who choose to make decisions through our hearts and never at their expenses. But a fourth is the waswasa of shaitan. May Allah protect us from it. And when shaitan knows that he has a limited amount of time to engage, the opportunity to come knocking at the entranceway of our chest, الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ, the sadr is the outer layer of it, is going to come where you have insecurity and you have vulnerability. Shaitan's not going to try to get you where I am insecure and vulnerable. He's going to try to get me where I am weak. Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, his son Abdullah hears him on one occasion saying the words, no, not yet, towards the end of his life. And he is worried that perhaps the angels of death have come to take his father from this world. And when he inquires, why were you saying these things? Imam Ahmad says there was no angels that came to take him, but it was Iblis himself that had said to him, now, as he is entering the last stages of his life, that you have fled from my grasp. I have no control over you. And my response to him was, no, not yet. No, not yet. Until death, we're going to take each other on. Because he knows when you have last moments, when there is just this much amount of time that shaitan will get you, his goal is to get you in a place where you start to undermine those things. Think not about what Ramadan will look like for you in the coming days, because we don't even know if we're going to reach it. And that's a reality you have to not think about in a morbid sense, but as a reality that each one of us, regardless of our background, is going to experience. You're going to experience death. Every one of us will. May Allah make the best of our deeds the last of our deeds. And let not any one of us meet him in a state other than is most pleasing to him. And the other reality, you could do whatever you want to in this world. You're just going to have to explain why you did it that way. All of it is going to be taken into account for. May Allah grant us ease. And I want you to think about where you were on this day a year ago. And is it the exact same place you are right now? Thinking about what it was like in the month of Rajab, that you can't go back and change it, but to inform how you utilize what it is that you know of yourself. When the Quran speaks about Ramadan, it speaks about it in relation to Quran. And when it's talking about Ramadan being the month in which the Quran is sent down, the reasons as to why we're told that it's sent down is what? Huda linnas, that it's there as a guidance for mankind. It also is a very conscious text of itself. It knows it is a book. And when it speaks in Surah Baqarah, it says, Huda lil muttaqeen, may Allah make us from the muttaqeen. Huda is different from ilm. Ilm is just knowledge. Huda is you're taking the step to actually be guided by that information. In looking at this audience, I don't know who became Muslim when. For some of you, it might be your first Ramadan. May Allah make it easy. And you got to know that if there's people who it is their first Ramadan, that you got to be better than your best in honoring the ranks of being a sister or brother to someone. But for a lot of us, likely it's not our first Ramadan. And if you're as old as me or older, you have experienced Ramadan in the midst of the summer, at its longest and hottest of days. You have learned about yourself that you have the capacity to go without consumption in those ways. You have learned that you have the ability to stand in the hours of the night. You have the ability to engage the Quran. If you learned you could fast in the middle of June, July, and August, why aren't you fasting right now? Why? And it's not meant to be a self-deprecating question, but our hadith teaches us about the best of creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fasting in the month of Sha'ban more than he fasted in any other month other than Ramadan. And if you know you have the capacity and you know you have the ability, the movement away from just rote ilm and knowledge and benefiting from it is that you act on what you know. Why do you say ihdina sirat al-mustaqim so many times in a day? It's not so you just know the path exists. It's so that you could walk on the path and traverse that path and move forward in it. And as you have awarenesses and knowledges and consciousness of things, the idea is not to meet Ramadan in a state that is steps behind. And this is what Shaitan wants to do, to captivate awareness and mindfulness, wakefulness and consciousness, to get us to a state where somehow we believe that I should be living the same year exactly the same way all of the time. This is not the characteristics of the people of Iman. May Allah make us from the strongest of believers. Adaptability and change is something that is a hallmark variable to the ideal identity of the mu'min. It shouldn't be the same exact Ramadan. And this year's Ramadan is that much more important for us to think about it through a different prism, that your growth and your change is not just about you, but it impacts the rest of us. Your fajr is not just your fajr. Your fajr, and whether you pray it well or don't pray it at all, will bear impact on all of us. Your engagement of what it is that you have been gifted as spiritual gifts that Shaitan wants you to utilize only for the acquisition of dunya, or utilize in ways that don't demonstrate appreciation and gratitude for what Allah has endowed you with by using it in the ways that Allah has wanted you to use them for. There are people right now in the world who utilize their spiritual gifts, their intellectual capacity, to fashion bullets and bombs that are killing babies every day. May Allah protect us from this. Allah did not give you this beautiful space. He did not give you community. He did not give you credentials and skills and awareness and capacity to know and learn about yourself so the next day after Ramadan you forget it. Likely a lot of you on the day of Eid, when you're about to eat some morsel during the daylight hours, you tell yourself it feels weird to eat. It's a Shaitan getting control of you by making you subservient to language. It's not weird that you feel that, but for the first time in an entire year, you are thinking about eating before you eat. That is taqwa. May Allah make us from the muttaqeen. And He's going to want you to think that it's strange and to laugh about it and use language about it that dilutes it. So when the next Ramadan comes, it's the same exact thing. It's not a fast that we engage in so that we know what it's like for people who have no food, because people who have no food, they also fast. But it's about us increasing within us this thing of taqwa. If tawbah is the vehicle that has me get out of the hole when I fell into it, I slipped up and made a mistake, and Allah in His mercy gives me the gift of tawbah to be able to repent. Because can you imagine what it would be like if we didn't have tawbah as a vehicle? If tawbah is the vehicle that gets me out of the hole when I fall into it, taqwa is the mechanism that tells me the hole is coming before I fall in. Hey, you're about to be racist. Hey, you're about to gossip. Hey, you're about to backbite. Hey, you're about to lie. You're about to cheat. You're about to hurt your child. You're about to mistreat your spouse. This Ramadan, you got to think about it differently. Look at how many people live in this world on default settings, not conscious of anything that's going on around them. I got into your city last night late. I went and grabbed something to eat, and I saw all kinds of homeless people on the street. May Allah make it easy for them. Transformation of the inner is the idea of the Jummah prayer, of the every prayer that we have. And the measure of how it's accepted, what our teachers tell us, one of the metrics of assessment is that you are different after you have gone through it. Jummah to Jummah, prayer to prayer, Ramadan to Ramadan creates for us an opportunity to be able to understand, are we actually doing this thing right? If you attend the Jummah prayer every year of your life and you go home and you exist in a way that its impact is not transformational. It's easy to be Muslim in here. The goal is to be Muslim out there, and especially when you're back in your house, you're supposed to be that much more of a Muslim, because it is only the eyes of the divine that are upon you. There's people sleeping on the streets in sub-zero temperatures, whose bodies are not even pale white, but the cardboard of boxes that came to packages in our homes that are cut up because of how we rip them open is what they're using as blankets. Literally seeing bodies that are turning blue and purple. Ramadan has never been about empty stomachs. It's about full hearts. Our Prophet ﷺ started making dua in this mode of self-talk, saying, Ramadan is coming, nothing should get in my way from being ready for it. But if you think the idea is that your preparation is just about making guest lists and gift lists and who it is that you are going to order what food for, that's not what it was about. There is a difference between huda and ilm, guidance and knowledge. You don't want to be a people who know something and you don't act on what you know. If you knew that you could already fast, why are you not fasting now? If you know you have the ability for generosity, that you have the capacity to be a source of blessing and benefit, if it is not Muslims who are the reason that people have hope in this world, who else should it be? And as the days get closer, Shaitan is going to seek to get us where we are most vulnerable. It might be that your test is going to come from the guy who drives your Uber, or maybe it not. It might be the group of friends that you interact with, or maybe not. Your biggest test might be the way that you treat your family. Your biggest test might be the way that you treat yourself. The day of Jummah in its entirety is a Mubarak day, not just the Jummah prayer. When you go home on this day that is blessed, may Allah make us those who reap from it. Open a notebook and write at the top, where can Shaitan get me? And then actually answer it. Whether you are 15 in this room, or 35 in this room, or 55 in this room, or 75 in this room, if you think you don't have the potential of being swayed, literally in the Quran, Shaitan says that I'm going to wait for your creation on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And you know Ramadan is not anything that you take lightly. What you feel in the month gives you a potential understanding of your capacity. And the second thing that you want to write down is this: what is my capacity to perform, and am I actually living up to it? Why is it that I'm just taking information and not acting upon it? And if I know something about myself and I'm still not acting on it, the reality is such that the judgment comes not just on what I did and did not do, but had the ability to do and still did not do it. You can't open the Quran and find an answer that says this is how you end hunger, man. But you can open it and say, as a Muslim, what are you supposed to do for the people who have no food? And when this space is filled a month from now with tons of people overflowing, I know because I've been here in Ramadan, may Allah make it a space that continues to bring benefit to His creation. You're going to have to determine if you yield to the transformative nature of that month and you understand it for what it is by how you prep for it now, but also embracing the change that comes, the way believers are told that change is something that we are supposed to engage in, so that you leave from the month in the best state possible, and then the rest of us can benefit from the blessing that is uniquely you. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us so many opportunities to catch us in a moment of mercy. There's no shortage of things that the world is in need right now as it becomes ever increasing in its darkness for us to share our light with it. In front of me is a beautiful jama'ah, diverse in a lot of different ways. And I'm not saying it to say anything about any other space, but you have an opportunity to play a role in determining what is this place going to be known as. We got a lot of masjids that are known as the Yemeni masjid, the Bengali masjid, the Sudanese masjid, the Turkish masjid. It's not a bad thing. People connect on sociological realities. We need spaces we can go to where people just understand who it is that we are. But you can shape and fashion a different trajectory that says that this is not going to be a space that is just known by the prevailing culture, but this is going to be the place where when people want to learn about Islam, they know they can come here. When someone wants to take their shahada, they know that they can come here because there'll be people who will invite them to break fast with them and celebrate the day of Eid with them and not leave them sitting in a diner by themselves or tell them that I was happy when you converted, but there's no way you could ever marry my child. You want to be known as the generous community. You want to be known as the honest community, the ethical community. When you come together in this blessed month of Ramadan, it doesn't start just from that first day, but communities are made up of individuals. And if we had an aspiration individually to be from the muttaqeen, can you imagine if 1,000 people of taqwa gathered here every single night in Ramadan and sat to think out, how can we be a light for the state of Michigan? With a recognition that we live in this world and we are not anti-dunya, but we understand its proportionality to the world beyond this one. Start your preparation from now. If you can fast, start to fast now. If you have capacity to wean yourself in certain ways, start to think about what will make the difficulties of those first days not present. If you know that you have learned in past Ramadans that without caffeine and without nicotine and without whatever else, your head starts to hurt and you can't focus in the first week of Ramadan, why would you not start working on it now? There's a difference between huda and ilm. You don't want to just know and not act on what you know. And one of the secrets to contentment is that you keep what you know and how you act on what you know close together. It creates balance inwardly. There's a lot of reasons why we're given this thing, but like many other things, one of the reasons is so that we know ourselves for what we actually are, and the person I am today is not afraid to meet who I can become tomorrow. It's here for you to take from. If you think that you've got it fine the way that it is, then shaitan's already got you, man. Take a breath, seek refuge with Allah, and understand that what you put into it is going to yield you what it is that you get out of it. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present here and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Increase us in courage, compassion, and confidence. Protect us from affliction, anxiety, and anguish. Remove from our hearts any fear feelings of bitterness, jealousy, animosity, or envy towards any of your creation. Grant us hearts that are filled with understanding and hope, hearts that are drawn towards things of real goodness and beauty, hearts that find themselves deep in your remembrance, for indeed in your remembrance do hearts find rest. Make blessed for us, Ya Allah, this month of Sha'ban, and bless each one of us and our loved ones to meet and reach and take benefit from the forthcoming month of Ramadan. Let not any one of us meet it in a state other than what is our potential best. And help us, Ya Rabbi, to be from amongst the strongest of believers, willing to change not just for ourselves, but for the sake of the people that are near and dear to our hearts. Make us those who always make decisions through our hearts and never at their expenses. Make us always the reason that people have hope in this world and never the reason that people might dread it. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقيم الصلاة.